They did paint a picture of a very nice gay couple, but that's not the reality of what we had.
Welcome back to Behind the Edit, your go-to podcast for unpacking the actual reality behind reality TV. I'm Lachlan Gurdon.
And I'm Talia Pritchard, and we are on the home stretch of MAFS.
I
No
see what
pun
you did
intended.
there.
No pun intended. We just survived homestays. It's become like a we mentality for me now. I know obviously we're not on the show, but I feel like we may as well be at this point because it's all I think about. It's all I watch. I dream about it. We've been this long into the MAFS season now that I'm just like, it's my whole life.
I feel like Homestays Week was very similar to Family and Friends Week earlier. We saw a lot of the same characters, a few similar storylines. I wasn't that interested in everything going on because it feels like we had seen it already.
It was a bit of a flop.
But today we have a very special interview with Stephen from this year's season. He was an intruder. He's going to talk all about his time on the show.
Yeah, I loved this chat with Stephen. I think I could just talk to him all day. I love his presence. And I mean, it was over Zoom, but I was just like, I want to be besties.
Exactly. He was zooming in from Perth. It's an exclusive interview where he's going to unpack his time on the show, what we didn't see on camera, his relationship with Michael, and his relationship with the hairdresser, and if they're still in contact now.
Yeah, but before we get into that, I want to hear your thumbs up, thumbs down for the week that was.
I'll be honest. It was hard to find a thumbs up, so I decided to just scrap that for me.
I did too.
Really? Okay.
I was like it was flop week. Like, I was a bit bored.
There were so many negative moments as well between Eden and Jaden, their big fight on homestays. We had two couples leave with Cassandra and Tristan, Richard and Andrea. There were some low moments.
I just kind of feel like love's a bit dead at the moment. There's no couples that I'm really like, oh, I can't wait to see you do final vows at the end because I believe in your love story.
Totally. And that is exactly my thumbs down. Jono and Lauren, They had a big moment in homestays. There was a lot of jeopardy on where the relationship's going. They found their spark. He really got along with her best friend and things are going really well. They've consummated the marriage again. Like they're back on a great track. I do not care because we know that Jono is now with Ellie.
Yeah, it's weird to watch back on. Like I didn't actually think, I guess when that whole spoiler happened with Ellie and Jono, I kind of assumed that Lauren and Jono wouldn't make it this far.
Totally.
And they're clearly going all the way to final vows at this point, I assume.
Well, it looks like it. And I think that's my problem where if we didn't know that they weren't together now, or at least we didn't know that he was part of a cheating scandal that was so heavily orchestrated to come out at one point, then at least I would care more about them. And I care so much about Lauren as a character as well. She's so interesting. I'm glad she's still on our TV screens. But in terms of their relationship and the fact that they're going so strong, it's like, okay, but it's going to end soon.
It's making me feel more icky now too, because back when the whole scandal was revealed, I just kind of assumed, again, they fell out of love.
Yeah.
Well, not that they were in love to start with, but, like their journey had come to an end. And then maybe he started texting Ellie and then he and Ellie show up at reunion. But now it's like, no, they went to Perth and they got it on. And I'm like, but are you texting Ellie? Like, what's going on?
What is going on? Because we spoke to Ben in an earlier episode and he said that Jono always had eyes for Ellie. So what is the truth? We don't know.
Yuck. It's a bit yuck. Don't like it. Speaking of yuck, how is that for a segue? My thumbs down this week was Jack and Tori. Another couple that all... where do we start? I just print out a scroll and it's like... they obviously consummated their marriage too. Good for them, finally, after all this time. I didn't like the lunch with Jack's friends. I think there's a lot of toxic behavior on one table going on there.
So the first point was obviously that it was a meeting with two more of Jack's clients.
Clients, not his friends.
Well, they could be friends. The way that we're always hearing that their clients are through the voiceover and through the narrator. So it's obviously very pointed that they're making a point of not saying that they're his friends. So he could be introducing them as his friends, but the narrator and the show's producers are making a point of saying, no, they're his clients. They're not actually his friends, which is portraying a certain storyline.
True. And it's just interesting that they pay to potentially hang out with him. He should be paying them for coming on this show and being his friends / clients.
True.
Anyway, so the conversation that happened around kind of grilling Tori and putting her on the spot, which I think she handles that kind of stuff relatively well. But I also don't like that Jack was like, I've been grilled all experiments and now it's her turn. It's like, you have been grilled over your behavior.
Yeah.
You just don't grill someone to see if they fit into your life. You don't get your friends to come in and just like pound them with questions and make them feel kind of really shit about themselves just to see if they can take it. Like that is psychotic in my opinion.
He did not say anything. He didn't defend her, which
No,
is...
and she's always come in and stood up for him.
Yes.
Obviously, this is going to be really mad.
It's almost like you can compare it to Bronte's sister last season where she was grilling Harrison on his behaviour. But this season, Tori was being grilled on the fact that she has mainly male friends, and that would assume that she has been sleeping with them all. And they were just completely blown out of proportion. Like, they didn't make sense.
That's what I wanted to point out to Jack's client / friend, Liz, I think her name was. So when Tori is like, I've always had male friends, I don't really like that. I'm just one of the boys mentality in general. I do think it's quite a toxic way to kind of assume you're a bit better or cooler than other women who maybe don't get along with men.
Yeah.
Like, if the men were looking at people like Jack, I don't know why you would be bragging about that. But then Jack's friend comes in and is like, well, I just assume girls who are friends with guys sleep with them.
Which is...
What are you talking about?
a big leap.
Like, what do you mean?
But then could the same not be said about Jack only having female friends and female clients?
Yeah, like is that just projection there?
Yeah, I didn't understand it fully, and I thought that Tori at least defended herself well. It was a moment where I think viewers really started to defend Tori because Jack wasn't defending her.
Yeah, I thought she was kind of opening her eyes in this moment, but then obviously they had their romantic dinner and then sparks flew, allegedly.
Yeah. Well, we might not have had any thumbs up in the episodes this week, but I'm giving a big thumbs up to this week's guest, Stephen. Let's get straight into our chat.
Thanks so much for joining us, Stephen. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys going?
Good. So good to have you on Behind the Edit. Are you still watching this season of MAFS?
Not religiously, but I am in contact with a few people, and I know if they've let me know that they've got a big episode coming on, I'll definitely tune in for that.
Who have you stayed in contact with post-show?
Eden and Jade are probably the most, every second day we'll touch base. But everyone, it's a good group of people. Like, it's a pretty crazy experience we shared together. So, I'll touch base with everyone and just make sure that they're holding up all right.
Yeah.
For sure. How did it feel watching your own journey back and seeing yourself on TV and your story play out?
It's a pretty surreal thing to watch myself. I think the first few episodes I had like imposter syndrome where I was watching it and I was like, oh yeah, they seem like a nice couple, but didn't really feel like I was watching us. The more it went on, it's a version of what happened. So yeah, it was interesting watching it for sure.
What was your process for getting on the show?
I was scouted through Instagram. So I had a very different I had 2 weeks from when I was 2 weeks from when I was definitely told like, yeah, it's happening, to when I was, on the altar getting married.
Wow. So that's scouted through Instagram, I'm guessing? Is that just an Instagram DM?
Yeah.
Wow. And then how do you feel when you get that message? What makes you want to sign up when you've got 2 weeks notice? That's not much time at all.
Well, look, so initially it was probably 6 weeks before anything happened. I was contacted just again through Instagram and told like, would you be interested? We're pretty keen on you. And I was pretty apprehensive at that point. Like, I'd never seen the show. I was traveling with my best mate at the time, and she's very logical, and she was like, no, it's a bad idea. Don't do it. So I think initially I was not so keen. And then I didn't hear from them for 4 weeks. And I think in that time, you're the treat 'em mean, keep 'em keen. I got super keen over that period. I was like, all right, I think I really want this. And then, 2 weeks before it actually started, they contacted me like, hey, are you still single? Because if you are, we've got a match. And it just snowballed from there. And I think I had, the little gap I had that I didn't hear from them. I did think about it, and I was super keen to find a relationship. And the way it was pitched to me was so good that, like, you don't want to live over East. So what if your perfect match is there and we can find that for you? And that's it's a pretty appealing concept for sure.
Did you kind of assume then that Michael had the same journey as you, as though kind of being contacted and then found really quickly? Is that what kind of rattled you when you found out he had already been through the process a little bit more than you had?
I definitely did think that the way that my process for the show happened was very typical. Come to learn, it's not at all. So I think what rattled me so much with it was that everything started kind of making sense. It was like, all right, they did find me initially for Michael, and then when I spoke to the matchmaker and they asked what I like in a partner, they did ghost me for that period. So they obviously thought wasn't a great match, not going to work out. And then when I learned that his match did pull out, and they last minute were like, "Are you still free? Because if you are, we kind of need you." That's where I kind of was like, "Oh, shit. Like, have I just been put in here because you needed someone for Michael?" And not his fault at all. Like the poor guy did have such an unlucky run with the whole thing. So yeah, I think that kind of threw me a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. When on your wedding day, did you feel an initial spark or attraction to Michael or anything on the honeymoon, or was it always just kind of like you weren't entirely sure?
Look, there definitely wasn't an initial spark at any point. During the wedding day, it's so hard to say. Like, we probably spent 2 hours with each other throughout that whole 12-hour day. And then the rest of the time, we're kind of being taken away for boxies or, being encouraged to talk to family members. And so I didn't really get to know Michael until his friend wrote the speech. Read the speech from his mum. And that's when I started to be like, oh, okay, this guy seems like he's got good friends and good morals. And so that was the first time I really was like, maybe this could work. But prior to that, like we didn't get any time to interact really.
Was there ever a point in the experiment where you thought, okay, I understand why the experts paired us together then? Or was there always that doubt that you were the second choice?
Definitely. Like if you look on paper, we are a great match. Our morals, like we did a lot of challenges that they gave us, and our morals do line up with what we want and what we want in the partner and for the future. But like when it comes to connection and what I like in a person and common grounds, yeah, we had none. Unfortunately we're just such different people. He's an awesome guy, but yeah, we didn't watch the same shows. We had nothing to really connect or converse over. So no, I definitely don't think that, throughout the experience, there was never a time where I was like, this is we went on date nights every single night and really tried. But 3 weeks in, I was like, this isn't going to eventuate to anything.
For sure. Talk to us about the hairdresser moment. Obviously, that was a big moment in the storyline of you guys where you had met someone and I guess was it just kind of a bit of a physical attraction vibe that you felt upon meeting this person?
It was less about, it wasn't like a spark, like, oh my God, I'm in love with this person. It was just so easy to have banter and talk with him. We had known each other for 30 seconds and we could like have a laugh and had common interests, and it was just an easy conversation. And I think that for me was like it shouldn't be this hard. With Michael, it shouldn't be this hard. Any other relationship or friendship that's ever grown into anything, it doesn't take this much work. And I think deep down, Michael obviously knew that. Like when we caught up at a later date, we were sitting there having a drink, and he was like, "We really just have like no chemistry. We've got nothing in common. Like it's really hard to try and converse." So yeah, that's for me what it was. It was less about I having a spark or wanting to flirt or wanting to pursue anything there, and more about like in our marriage, what we're missing is just a common ground and a friendship, really.
Did you stay in contact with the hairdresser after the show, or are you still talking now?
No. I messaged him once the episode came out. I found him on Instagram and sent him a message and just apologized for getting him involved in all of this. But other than that, no, we've got no communication.
And where do you stand with Michael now? Are you guys in contact? Have you managed to build a friendship now that the pressure's off to have a romantic connection?
Unfortunately, we don't talk anymore. We did once the show finished. We actually finished in a really good place. Typically, when you both write leave on the couch, you get separated. But we were in a really good place. We did kind of have this crazy ride together, so we opted to just stay in our apartment together for the last night, and we had a good night. We watched some movies and had a cheese board. Um, and then we kept in contact over the kind of the months after the show. But I think rewatching it and everything that's come with this show and the interviews and the storyline that's been portrayed, I think that did cause a rift with us. And I suppose inevitably there was never we're such different people, so it was always going to be hard to keep a friendship.
You mentioned the storyline. How accurate would you say was your experience filming to what was then aired on TV?
We just didn't get much airtime. So, the things that did happen, they happened. Um, they were definitely missing a lot of context. So we probably had 10% of our story shown, and the bits that were shown painted a really positive picture of we have a really strong connection and we're getting along really well. And yeah, the reality was I struggled from day one, and the experts were good in the sense that they gave us some awesome tips and advice. I feel bad for Michael because his whole personality was kind of cut from, like, he was very vocal at the dinner parties, and he did get into a few confrontations with people, but that's all kind of been stripped away. And so yeah, I think that they did paint a picture of a very nice gay couple, but that's not the reality of what we had.
I feel like they definitely tried to make the storyline around what had happened to Michael at the start of the season. Like everything that was shown or what the experts said to you guys was just, thank you so much for being a part of this. Sorry for what happened. And you're right, we didn't really get to see much of you two as a couple outside of the drama of what happened even before you guys even met.
Look, we didn't really have a storyline. I'm a very chilled back person. I didn't really get involved in any of the drama. I don't like any of that. And when Michael and I would have confrontations, we would very calmly sit down and talk it through. So it doesn't really lead to good TV. So I think, that was probably a huge reason as to why they needed something to focus on. But in turn, they really did. They really did focus on that aspect of it, even while we were filming. So, to show it was a huge deal for me. It was a big deal, but it was also made to be a huge deal. Every couch session it was brought up, and I did feel the extra pressure that Michael had been left prior to me coming to the show, so I felt like I didn't get to just go and experiment as two new people coming into it totally blind and get to navigate our relationship ourselves. It was Michael's had a low blow, so you've got a bar you need to meet. You need to, he's already been kicked. Don't kick him again. I was like, oh, well, that's kind of a pretty hard position to step into.
Yeah, that is hard. Is that why you guys ended up on retreat week? Because obviously things kind of blew up by the looks of it on TV anyway. And then all of a sudden you guys were like, we'll go on retreat anyway. Was that your choice? Was that the producer's choice? What happened there?
Yeah, no, definitely wasn't my choice. I after the hairdresser, it was a day off filming. So it's really complicated when there's not cameras there because everything kind of tries to get paused, but a lot happens off camera. So the day itself, we had multiple conversations about the hairdresser, and they were really calm and they were really productive. But then we had to wait a few hours for a camera crew to arrive and kind of recreate what had happened. And I think I was so taken back because the recreation of what had happened was so much more heightened than the reality. I mean, by that point, it was 7, 8 o'clock at night. We were so calm. We were so done with it. I'd kind of said to Michael, I'm done. I'm leaving the experiment. I'm really sorry. And then he was all kind of fired up and, made into this massive fight that we hadn't had all day. And then, I kind of once we had our conversation, I said to the producers, I'm finished. can we go? They're like, you can't, unfortunately, like it won't make sense to the viewers at home. You've got to stay to the commitment ceremony, and you've got to see it out. So that's why we ended up going on retreat. Um, and yeah, I think I got pulled aside and I was told, like, you can't use language like you're done, or you've got to kind of play to the characters. So that was really hard. Retreat was really hard because I think when you've tapped out of something in the real world, you leave, right? You don't stick around and fake it. But yeah, I suppose in the MAFS world, you've not got that luxury.
Yeah, that's so weird to think
Wow.
about. It's almost like you have to put your acting hat on a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm such a bad actor.
You mentioned before that Michael had caused a bit of drama or spoken up at the dinner parties, which we didn't see. Do you think he maybe spoke up more in the recreation of the fight to make it more of a TV moment, or he was playing up for the cameras?
I don't want to throw Michael under the bus. He definitely did want airtime, and he didn't get much of that. Um, But at the same time, the producers are very good at their job, and they do take you aside and they do kind of talk to you. And when I kind of, after we blew up and had that conversation on the couch, and it was a lot more heated, and he was very theatrical with throwing his ring down, and he wore his like top that had a meme on it that he wanted to wear. I kind of pulled him aside and I was like, why? I don't understand why you did that. Like we've got so much respect for each other. I thought that, and we've been so calm about it all day. I don't know why it was such a big thing. And he was saying that the producers really hyped him up. He was like, I was really calm about it. And then when I started talking to the producers in my voxies, they got me really angry. So he kind of came in guns blazing, which makes sense. I mean, you've got to take accountability. And he did decide to kind of put his top on and make it a big thing. But yeah, it's a pressure cooker we're in. So yeah, no hard feelings with any of that.
Did you ever have moments that you felt the producers were trying to do the same to you, like rile you up a little bit to make the storyline a bit more dramatic?
Yeah, definitely. They again, they're very good at their jobs, and it is a very big mind game that they're playing. So, there would be moments that you would be isolated from the group, and you can kind of hear people talking and having a good time, and you're left in your tent for a few hours to kind of feel isolated and suppressed. And yeah, like if they want you to feel a certain way, you get a very different treatment each kind of commitment ceremony or dinner party.
Sounds like the worst high school environment ever.
It's pretty brutal. It's definitely not for the faint of heart.
You and Michael were the third same-sex couple to ever appear on MAFS, and the first couple since 2020. Did you feel a sense of pressure at all representing your community, or I guess any internal pressure to make it work?
No, and that's purely my my own naivety. I had never seen the show before. I didn't know who had previously been on it. So going into it, I didn't put a label on, like, just because we were a gay couple. In my mind, that's no different to anyone else. Like, we were on there because they found us a good match. So that's kind of the mindset I went into it with. I didn't feel the pressure from the producers and the production team until I learned that Michael's previous match had left. And then I absolutely felt the pressure. And not so much because we were gay, but I felt the pressure that Michael's previous match pulled out. We've got you here. Like, we found you in a really fast time. It's got to work out. But yeah, I suppose for being the gay couple, I didn't feel that pressure. I didn't feel like I was representing anyone. I just went on there being myself, and yeah, it was our journey and personal to us. So I just went in there and tried to be as true to myself as I could.
From your time on the show, who would you say had the strongest relationships that you saw?
Look, everyone's wavered, there's no such thing as like a perfect, strong relationship. So it went in waves. Eden and Jaden, like, are in a really good place, and they're a really strong couple. But, like everyone's witnessing right now, they've got issues like everyone does. Jade and Ridge, in a really good place and a really strong couple. I think Tim and Lucinda, I would say that it's not a relationship in the sense of a boyfriend and a girlfriend, but the relationship that they have with each other, even to date, it's incredible. Like the way the support they have for each other, and that relationship that they've made for each other, I think they will carry that through the rest of their lives, which I think is incredible.
Yeah, I love that. I kind of think they're one of the strong, like, again, like you're saying that you can't have a perfectly strong relationship, but they're probably one of the best love stories to come out of MAFS in the sense of just platonic friendship.
And there really is genuine love there between the two of them. Just not in a romantic sense.
There are always rumours as well that certain couples are staying on the show for airtime. From your perspective, is there any truth to that this season?
I can't imagine why anyone would. No, I think that everyone that was on the show, I suppose really did just give it a crack and tried their hardest.
Do you think anyone copped a really unfair edit watching it back?
I do, and it is not at all who you would think. Jono has copped a very different edit, and just in the sense that, like I was saying, removing context is such a big part. So everyone I've spoken to about Jono think he's a very meek, quiet person, but he was probably one of the most vocal males at those dinner parties. He was very opinionated. He was very calm with addressing his opinions. So yeah, the poor guy's lost a whole portion of his personality.
Wow. I wonder if that's in relation to the whole Ellie Jono recoupling, and that was kind of the producers getting back and cutting him out. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. Like it's interesting, but that's definitely something I watch and think just, like being at those dinner parties, the ones that I was there for, I remember like, all right, now Jono's going to step in and say something, and then it just would never happen for the poor guy.
It's kind of weird though. I feel like you see with the couples, you always have one more vocal than the other. So it's like maybe they just gave Lauren that role. It's like she's going to be the vocal one and he's going to look like the meek husband, just kind of like how Tori sometimes looks like she has her bits cut out.
Yeah, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Who would you say has been given the most accurate edit?
I think that majority of the cast have kind of got a pretty accurate edit. It's just like a caricature of each person. So like heightened versions of what they actually were. So yeah, I think everyone, probably Ben.
I feel like I know the answer to this question, but would you do MAFS again if you were to kind of go through the process and be matched properly?
Absolutely not. Yeah, no, not, and nothing against the show. They are doing their job, but like I said, you've got to be a very specific type of person to excel in, I think, just in reality TV in general, and I'm not that person.
Have you found dating hard since leaving the show, or are you still dating now?
I've actually met someone, so that's been awesome to kind of have, to have someone to kind of rewatch. It's a pretty unique experience watching, being in a new relationship and watching your partner get married to someone else. But yeah, no, it's been awesome to kind of have someone to go through this experience with.
What can you tell us about your relationship and how you two met?
Nothing. I have learned my lesson to keep my private life private.
That's a good answer.
Very diplomatic. Can you give us any tea on what filming the reunion was like? Obviously, we know you can't spoil storylines or anything, but how did you find the whole process?
I had a great time at reunion. I think because it was, like a big catch up with a bunch of friends that you haven't seen in ages. I think because we all knew it was done, everyone was a little bit more relaxed with what was happening, and like the producers kind of had it was like school camp, and teachers had lost control of the kids. So yeah, I had a great time. I just had a few too many drinks and a really good catch up with everyone.
Was there anything else you wanted to share about your experience on the show, or what viewers should know about this season?
No, I think we've kind of touched base on everything, hey?
No, that's awesome.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it so much.
Pleasure. Thanks heaps for having me, guys.
So MAFS is wrapping up really soon, and I thought we'd throw back to a moment we had earlier this year, way before MAFS had even started, actually. We sat down with Olivia Fraser from the 2022 season. She had some advice for the cast of the 2024 season, so let's play it now.
Do as I say, not as I do, but definitely think about what you want to say before you speak. People are going to be watching you like hawk, and Yeah, they will take it the wrong way if you give it any room for interpretation. I wish I made a TikTok account.
Oh, yeah.
And I used my voice.
Yeah.
I wish I'd spoken up for myself. I wish after every single episode of MAFS that had aired, I was on my TikTok and telling my truth about what happened. Mm-hmm. I wish I'd got onto it straight away. Absolutely get your truth out there.
Yeah.
Stick up for yourself. Articulate yourself well and stick up for yourself.
Well, our DMs are open for any cast that is listening from this season. Please hit us up.
Stay tuned to see who we get on next week's episode, but thank you so much for tuning in to Behind the Edit.
If you like this episode, leave us a 5-star review and a really nice comment.
Make sure you follow us on all our socials, sign up to our exclusive newsletter, and join our Facebook group. All the links will be in the show notes.
And we'll see you next week.
Behind the Edit is brought to you by Yahoo Australia, hosted by Lachlan Gurdon and Talia Pritchard. Produced by Katie Brown. Social production by Alexa Tubatini. Yahoo Australia would like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional owners of the land on which this podcast was recorded, and pay our respects to elders past and present.